Here I'm going to show Rat's Nest, a fantastic deck out of Betrayers of Kamigawa. It has one of the big bombs in the block, Umezawa's Jite. And it's also got a bunch of rats, and I love rats. It's got one of Nasume's Shadow Watcher, and it's got 4 of Skull Snatcher. Nasumi Shadow Watcher is a rat warrior, a 1-drop. If you sacrifice it, you can destroy target ninja, but if you don't do that, in case nobody has any ninjas, it's still a 1/1/1, which is fine. It's really as good as a vanilla creature most of the time then. Skull Snatcher is a 2/2/1, a little aggro. It's got ninjutsu, so you can return an unblock attacker you control to hand. Put this card into play from your hand tapped and attacking. I have to think about the value of doing ninjutsu. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, remove up to 2 target cards in that player's graveyard from the game. That could be useful. Otherwise, if you think of it as vanilla, it's still a 2/2/1. Then 3 of Nazumi Cutthroat and 2 of Nazumi Bone Reader. More rats. This is so awesome. Nazumi Cutthroat is a 2/2/1. It's got Fear, which I think is called Intimidate these days, and it cannot block. The other one, the Bone Reader, is a 2/1/1. But if you pay an additional mana, you sacrifice a creature, target player discards a card. Play this ability only anytime you could play a sorcery. That's not so great, because you have other cards that can do that without you having to pay that much. And then you've got Nazumi Grave Robber and 4 of Nazumi Runnin'. Nazumi Grave Robber is a 2-drop, 2/1. It's already pretty good without having to flip it. For an additional 2 mana, remove target card in an opponent's graveyard from the game. If no cards are in that graveyard, flip Nazumi Grave Robber. That can happen because if you're early in the game, there may not be any cards in the graveyard. When you flip it, it becomes Night Eyes the Desecrator, a legendary rat. And for an additional 5 mana, put target creature card in a graveyard into play under your control. That's really nice. Except you'll have to pay 5 on top of having flipped it and getting that far. Nazumi Ronin is a rat samurai. It's a 3/3/1 with Bushido. When this block or becomes blocked, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Then we've got 2 of Nazumi Numai Outcast. And we have 2 of Throat Slitter. Numai Outcast is a 4/1/1 with Bushido 2. So if the blocks or becomes blocked, it gets +2/+2. That's not so great. Now, when you play an additional mana, you pay 5 life. You can regenerate this card. I think it's alright, but it doesn't read like something that would be outrageously good. Throat Slitter is a rat ninja, 5-drop, 2/2 with ninjutsu of an additional 3 mana. Looks difficult to play. When it deals combat damage to a player, destroy target non-black creature that player controls. Hopefully you won't get mirrored if you play that card. Then you have Okibagan Shinobi, and then you've got one of them. And then Patron of the Nazumi. And then in the case of Okiba, it's a rat. That's really nice. A 5/3/2 with ninjutsu for an additional 4. Return an unblocked attacker you control to hand. I'd have to think about the value of that. But the last one I really like. When it deals combat damage to a player, that player discards 2 cards. That could be really useful if your player had cards to discard, if your opponent. Now, here is a legendary spirit, Patron of the Nazumi. It's a 7-drop 6/6. And it's got Rat Offering. You may play this card anytime you could play an instant by sacrificing a rat and paying the difference in mana cost between this and the sacrificed rat. Mana cost includes color. I'd have to really think about that one. Whenever a permanent is put into an opponent's graveyard, that player loses 1 life. That's really nice. but I'd have to think about right offering. I'm sorry, I'm not really totally getting it. Psychic Spear, one of them. 2 of Befoul. Psychic Spear is a 1-drop sorcery. Target player reveals his or her hand. Choose a spirit or arcane card from it. That player discards that card. A fantastic card in block constructed for Kamigawa, I'm sure. Probably completely useless otherwise. Befoul is a 4-drop sorcery. Destroy target land or non-black creature. It can't be regenerated. I think I pulled this card recently. 1 of Dance of Shadows and 2 of 3 Tragedies. Boy, the artwork on 3 Tragedies is incredible. That is one of the awesomest artwork that I've seen on a Magic card. Dance of Shadows is a 5-drop sorcery arcane. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain fear until end of turn. That's alright. Then in the case of 3 Tragedies, target player discards 3 cards. That's not so bad. It'll cost you 5, and well, your opponent would have to have 3 cards to drop. Stir the Grave, 1, Rend Fletch, 1. Stir the Grave is an X-Swamp sorcery. Return target creature card with CMC X or less from your graveyard to play. That could be really good. That's a tutor card. It's fair. Rend Flesh, I'm sorry. It's a 3-drop. Destroy target non-spirit creature. That could be alright for 3. Horobi's Whisper, 2 of them. And then Ragged Veins, 1. Horobi's Whisper is an arcane instant, 3-drop. If you control a swamp, destroy target non-black creature. And it's got Splice onto arcane. Remove 4 cards in your graveyard from the game. So you'd have to do that. Very situational card for sure. Ragged Veins is a 2-drop creature enchantment aura, enchant creature. You may play Ragged Veins anytime you could play an instant. It's got hate. It's not really haste. Yeah, it must be haste. Whenever enchanted creature is dealt damage, its controller loses that much life. That could be good for you if you play it right. Then Midnight Covenant, 2-drop, and Genju of Defense, a 1-drop. Midnight Covenant, you enchant a creature. So it's an enchantment aura. Enchanted creature has, with you play 1 swamp, this creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. That could be really useful because that's giving any one creature the ability to pump itself. I like that. Genju of Defense is a 1-drop, and you can enchant a swamp only with it. It's kind of interesting. For an additional 2 until end of turn, Enchanted Swamp becomes a 2/2 black spirit creature with pay 1 mana. This creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Is still a land. I like both cards a lot. Then finally, Shuko and of course the bomb, Umezawa's Jitte. Shuko is a 1-drop artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+0, and it takes nothing to equip, which is really nice. It's only a +1/+0, but that's all right. Again, it's 1 card to use. That slot to get that little out of a card, I'm not sure I would play it. Umezawa's Jitte, on the other hand, is a legendary artifact equipment, a 2-drop. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage, put 2 charge counters on Umezawa's Jitte. Remove a charge counter from this card, and you can choose 1. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn, or target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn, or you gain 2 life. Those are 3 great options for very little cost. No wonder this card was such a bomb.